Hi there, and welcome back to the Awaken to the Truth of You series. And today we're going to be talking about moving through the obstacles and the expansion that's experienced as a consequence of those obstacles. So, expansion is the reason for the obstacles that you have in your life right now and have had in your life. And I know that that is tough to hear. But it's important for you to remember this. Expansion through contrast and the creation of desires is your life's work. Expansion is something that we in non-physical, and this is Angela talking, are constantly enjoying. And just to make a note, if you don't know this, my higher self is called Angela. She is a 16th dimensional being residing in the angelic realms. So all of this information has been guided. And it's something you will come to understand and appreciate as you progress through your awakening. Expansion enables so much of the capabilities that's actually in your soul contract. And expansion allows for you to be able to fully align to your soul contract and all that wonder that's in there. And if you're wanting to understand more about soul contracts or any of the information that I've just spoken about, go to the earlier Awakening the Truth of You series, and there'll be a video explaining exactly what I'm talking about, or a podcast if you're listening to this on my podcast. So I want to just reiterate what expansion means in reality. So your higher self, and my higher self, is called Angela. She's a separate entity, even though I have a slither of her energy within me. And she and every other higher self, because you have a higher self too, anyone in physical has a higher self, resides in the non-physical part of the universe, which is basically made up of energy that is moving so fast that we struggle to perceive and receive and translate it, which is why we can't see it. But the physical world that we live in is actually energy anyway, so it just moves much more slowly. So we're able to interpret and translate it. Anyway, I digress. So Angela started when she had her first incarnation millennia ago. We're talking a long time ago. And she started on the 4th dimension. And her physical body was on the 3rd dimension. And then she moved into the 5th dimension. And you may have heard the words 5th dimension Earth. You may have heard about this in spiritual teachings for a long time. I certainly did, and I didn't really understand what the heck they were talking about. And what in essence it means, 5th dimension Earth, is that for every physical human living this physical life, their higher self resides in the 5th dimension. At this moment in time, there's approximately 10,000 who are 5th dimension and above in the world. So their physical body's here in the 3rd, and their higher self is in the 5th dimension and above. And the remaining billions of people, their higher self resides in the 4th dimension. And the difference is that you have less ability to perceive and understand. So the very fact that you're here listening to me, either on a podcast or listening to my video series on YouTube or anywhere else, this is because you are, and I'm, 5th dimension and above. It would be very, very unusual for you to have been triggered to come and listen to my work if you were at 4th dimension. So your soul and your higher self are calling out for you to awaken to this so that you can start doing the work that you were soul contracted to do, the purpose that is within your soul contract. So the expansion means expanding in energy. So Angela's energy expanded and expanded and expanded, and energy moves faster and faster the more expanded and more high frequency it is. I suppose it's in the words, isn't it? High frequency. So high vibration takes up more space, therefore it becomes expanded. And as you're expanding through the dimension that you're in as a higher self with all their souls attached, you then get to the point where it shifts, and it gets to the point where you need to move into the next dimension. And the dimensions that are in non-physical are literally, it's where the energy shifts, changes, and it becomes faster and faster. So it's important. I've put on here the 12th dimension because the 5th and the 12th are really important dimensions. The 5th dimension is it's kind of like a gateway for all the dimensions above it to access into physical. So it's a bridge. And the 12th dimension is where everything goes multidimensional, and it's where the angelic realms start. And it's quite tough to get from the 11th to the 12th dimension, as it is from the 4th to the 5th. So, let me just show you the dimensions so that you can understand and get some more clarity. Those listening on the podcast, if you want to go to YouTube, you can watch live on, you can watch the slides there. And here we are. I'm showing you the dimensions. So each dimension is energy. So the earth, the 3rd dimension, is energy, and it moves through the dimensions, the 4th, the 5th, obviously 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th up to 12th. Then it goes from the 12th up to the 25th, and then beyond the 25th is the ultimate dimension, and that's it. That's what our universe is made of. And actually the 25th dimension and the ultimate cross all universes, because we live in a multiversal environment. I won't go into that now because that isn't necessary. However, so I want you to have a sort of like a bird's eye view of understanding of why this is happening. We're looking to expand, to move up the dimensions. That, in essence, is why we create contrast, and we create these obstacles for that contrast. So, let's talk about moving through the obstacles. And so how do you move through the obstacles and enjoy all that expansion you've achieved? Because the obstacles were there and created to create expansion. What happens when you move through the obstacles is you expand even further. And then you get to start to really enjoy all the wonder that you've put into your soul contract. The pre-manifested events, you start triggering the predetermined events because of the expansion that you've achieved, that was set in your soul contract, that you couldn't actually achieve XYZ unless you did XYZ. More on that on soul contracts. Go back and have a look at that, or have a listen of that if that's something that you haven't done already. So the way that you really begin to move through those obstacles is, and to be able to sort of enjoy the fruits of your labour, so to speak, is to remember who you really are and why you're here. And this then allows you to let go of what was, and it allows you to become now and future focused, so that you can stop generating fear in every moment, which you're probably doing right now. And it enables you to start choosing love in every situation, which, if there's any Abras out there, Abraham Hicks talks about step 5. This is the step 5 they talk about. That is the achievement that we're looking to, any law of attraction students of Abraham, they are all looking for this Abraham step of step 5. And then expansion comes through the shift in perception as well as the obstacles. Experience the obstacles creates expansion, but actually shifting through the perception of and changing your perception about all the events you've ever experienced by creating new love label truths about them, that's when the next level of expansion comes, and it's mind-blowing. I know this because I have gone through this process. I am now 100% love labelled, and I'm just in the process of going through what's called a pinning process. I won't go into it now, but I'll explain more about what went on my Facebook page if you want to go and like it. It's White Witch Wisdom, and there's going to be, and also my Instagram, I'll talk about it on there as well, because I want you to understand the processes that are involved with all of this. But when you get to the point, this is basically what awakening means. When you come to awaken to who you really are and why you're here, let go of everything that what was, and be able to perceive everything from a love perspective going forward, then you're awakened. And boy, things will change for you for the better. So it's really important at this point to note that it's not your fault. Everything that's gone on is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to awaken and to remember to move through the obstacles. Now, this is a beautiful quote from Fifth Dimension Earth, and Liv and Rafa Kana, they are my spiritual mentors that I have been working with for the last 2 or 3 years, and they have changed my perception of the world, my perception of spirituality. They have enabled me to fully awaken and be fully pinned. And I am now passing on their beautiful golden nuggets of wisdom and received information via their tremendous higher selves. So, pre-manifested awakening events are often within your soul contract to be active, to actually activate this remembering. So we set it up like this, purposefully. And often these events create a huge amount of fear, type emotions that trigger the need to just feel better. The lowest of the low feelings, the feeling like I can't move forward, I can't go on type feelings. Perhaps the death of a loved one, a life-threatening event for yourself or another, but mostly for yourself, like a life-threatening illness, or you go through a horrific car accident or another type of accident. Perhaps a miscarriage or a stillbirth. These are all perfect opportunities for awakening. They're awakening events. For me, I picked miscarriage, and that was my first awakening into spirituality. But it's an awful lot of mistranslated understanding that I was working with for a long time. And the second awakening came for me after a life-threatening event that was perpetrated and obviously asked for by me through my soul contract by an ex-partner. And it triggered something in me that stopped me from going down 2 dark paths, which I had the opportunity to do if I wanted to. More of that in the soul contract video / podcast. And now I am here on this wonderful, wondrous light path because of that event. So I am so grateful for it. So to let go is to forget. Forgetting, not forgiveness, is important. For forgiveness actually leaves a residue of the experience within your cellular structure. And that will continue to, no matter how much you have reframed it, it's still deemed, if you're forgiving someone, that someone has done something to you. But you need to remember to truly awaken that you asked for this. And they chose to help you by becoming disconnected to do whatever it was. And we're talking all sorts of unpleasantness. It wasn't their fault. They agreed to help you. And now it's time for you to literally reframe it and let it go and forget it, because there's no need for you to continue to go back and look back and be triggered by it, even if you're saying, well, I forgave that person because they did X, Y, Z, but and that will trigger fear. You don't want that. It's done. No need for any more discussion once you've shifted. But I understand if you're listening to this and thinking, what the hell is she talking about? And I'm going to explain how you can make that shift. But this is the premise of the awakening process. So it's important to know. And at the moment when I first heard it, actually, I thought, okay, I get it, but I don't think I can ever do it. And 2 years on, I have done it. So I know that it's possible, and I've had a lot of things to forget. So because I chose to experience them for me to expand. And do you know what? If you're listening to this, I know that that's the case for you. You've got a lot to forget, and I'm gonna actually send some balance now out through this video or podcast, and whoever needs it will actually be you'll be able to feel it. So I just want you to close your eyes now. And my higher self Angela is an amplifier. She amplifies energies, so she's going to amplify the energy of balance. I'm going to create balance now, and balance in me, and I'm going to call in the law of balance, and I'm going to share it with you. And I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes and invite your higher self to flood you with the law of balance. And balance is a beautiful energy, and you can actually generate the balance by lighting up your love vortex, which is around your heart, and just allow love to flow in and out, and lighting up your hope vortex, which is around your solar plexus. More about vortexes of emotions later. But right now, just allow this to happen. And if you've got a lot of egoic blocks blanketing how you feel around your vortex of emotion, that's okay. You might not feel anything, but just know that this is coming to you, and I'm sharing it now. And all you need to do is allow. Just say allow. And just allow yourself to settle a little and feel a little bit more balanced, because it's important for you to hear this, and it's important for you to hear the rest of what I'm about to say, for you to be able to move forward and finally be free of all what was, free to be the truest of you, the truth of you, that loving, amazing being that has that soul purpose, that's just screaming to be unleashed, for you to step into the truest version of you, for you to finally be free, for you to live a life of love and a life of wonder. So now that you're a little bit more balanced, let's go through the process of how it can be achieved. And do you know what? I have, full disclosure, I have been trying to release, in inverted commas, for over 20-25 years. I've done thousands of hours of training in different modalities. EFT, hypnotherapy. I did 2 hypnotherapy courses. I've done regression. I've studied. I've read Brandon Bayes. I've understood about the journey work in the 1990s. I've read Deepak Chopra's work. I've read Louise Hay's work. And do you know what? I was doing a form of the experience of releasing, that the belief that has been the belief releasing process, that aspect of it. But what I wasn't doing, and this was a game changer, was doing it in conjunction with my higher self, and I wasn't creating new truths with her every single time, because a lot of the patterns were repeating. And actually I had something going on with my subconscious that was, so it was actually self-contracted, and it was something that was triggered by trauma in my childhood, and it was really important for me to have it for my own expansion. And if you're listening to this might be something that's going on with you, and but it might not. But for me, it meant that I would have never have been able to do the releasing work that I needed to do without this special, amazing received information by Liv and Raf via Fifth Dimension Earth. So I'm going to go through this process. This is the process that I have been going through over the last 2 years that has led me to be 100% love labelled and fully awakened. And truly, it is an amazing process. And I'm not going to lie to you, it wasn't easy. But I have a huge ability to make it easier for others because of all my capabilities. And that's why you're here listening to this, because I can help you with this process. So let me explain what this process is. First and foremost, it is a very basic new truth creation. So we've talked about the law of truth, and you understand what a new truth is. And if you don't, go back and watch the video or listen to the podcast. So a new truth, for example, is you've just fallen over and someone didn't help you up, for example, and you stand up and you think, bloody hell, they're a bastard or whatever. Excuse my language. And then you go away feeling a little bit angry, or someone put you out or did something to you. Now, a new truth, because there's not that much emotion attached to it, you can literally just look back and think, do you know what? They were probably really busy. They might not have even noticed me. They probably needed to go and do X, Y, Z. It's not their responsibility to help me anyway. Just let it go. And so you can shift from that original fear-based truth to a love-based truth where you have compassion for yourself and like, I tripped. Do you know, it wasn't nice, but I'm okay. And you know, it wasn't that big a deal that they didn't help me. So you can have compassion for yourself and for them. Create a new truth. Brilliant. And there's so many truths that you can create in that real basic way. But it always has to be done with the truth, with the higher self, and then it will update the truth. It'll be updated in the law of truth. But I'll explain about that later. Okay, so if you can't do that, and actually what happened was they pushed you down and made you fall over and then went off laughing or something, or we're talking about some horrendous stuff. I'll tell you one of my horrible experiences that I needed to do a lot of releasing on, and actually it was a big trigger for me. It was my awakening experience. My ex was very disconnected, and of course he was, because I was disconnected, and that meant I was disconnected from who I was, even though I was working in the spiritual world. I was helping people so much, but I couldn't understand why. I couldn't help myself, and I now know why. Because of this whole subconscious split thing. Anyway, so we were on holiday and he was having one of his angry rages, which he used to do, which were really very frightening, that were veering on physical and certainly emotional abusive. And he was driving the car, and we were in France, and he did something in the car that literally put me in harm's way. And we were a hair's breadth from a crash, somebody crashing into my side of the car, and he purposely put me there. He was like, he turned the car so I would get the full force. I thought I was going to die. That was a triggering point for me. And he had no remorse. He thought I was being ridiculous and to just shut up, and he was very emotionally abusive afterwards. And it was a triggering experience for me to understand how little he cared, how it was on the verge of hatred. But when you actually go through that process, and I mean, this is just one of the experiences I was dealing with him, and actually this was the triggering point for me and him to split up, which was the best thing that could have possibly happened for both of us. And he was disconnected for me. He had chosen a life of disconnection. I mean, he had a number of awakening moments, but it's not for me to say or to view it. But he was part of my soul group, and it was really important because it was instantaneous when we first met. It was really important for us to meet and for us to flow through that process together. It's fascinating, really. So for me to actually go through that an experience-led releasing, I had to go back into that experience, and this is what it is. I was shown that experience by my higher self. I was taken into that experience, and I had to understand, give myself compassion for how I felt, but also give him compassion for his disconnection that led into this behaviour before I was able to create some new truths around it. And I needed to do it from a balanced perspective for it to be created. So that is what an experience-led releasing is. And I'm not saying it's easy, because it wasn't to start with, but it got easier and easier. And the more I understood, and the more I was able to connect to his soul, and the more I was able, to be able to see things from a bird's eye view, it made it easier and easier. And then the absolute and utter change maker for all of this, obviously the higher self changing making thing was amazing, but that experience-led releasing is something that has been used. I know that Marissa Peers uses it in her RTT. It's whether she doesn't do it with the higher self though, but they will be creating some new truths. It's an unconscious connection with the higher self, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But Brandon Bay's emotional and basically her journey work was all around experience-led releasing. And in terms of, so basically this has been around for a long time, but the absolute accuracy and full disclosure of it's the higher self, and it's actually a new truth that's actually part of the truth, the law of truth. This is brand new, amazing insight brought to us by Believe releasing, in this Believe releasing process by Fifth Dimension Earth. And this bit here, the emotional releasing, is like mind blowing because it changes everything. Because once you get to, let me see if I've written, in fact, I won't talk about it right now. I'm going to explain more about each truth and experience-led releasing as I go through, and then I'll explain about the emotional releasing, because, oh my Lord, it was like, it literally blew my mind when I found out about this bit and started to use it. So it's important, you must be tuned to your higher self first so that you can actually receive downloaded thoughts and images that are key experiences, because there's no point in going through every experience. It's the key ones that you need to work with in the experience-led releasing. And you need to be balanced for that to happen, for them to be able to be shown to you. So there are things that you need to do to be able to get to this point. And you need to show yourself compassion and self-love first. Always you first, then others, before you can ever do anything to do with, sort of like, yeah, I understand what was going on. It's got to be you first. So the truth creation is created by you and your higher self when you shift your perception from fear to love about a previous experience or about yourself. And then what happens is it updates your subconscious, and then the truth is held within your energetic duplicate of you within the law of truth in your truth buckets. So basically a truth bucket is like a filing system, an energetic filing system. So creating a love-labelled new truth about an experience, the others involved or about you will result in the stored low vibration being released from your physical body. So if you could, going back to that scenario where you fell over, somebody didn't help you, you'd create a truth about them if you'd made a decision about them from a fear base, like anything other than love, basically. And then you release it. It releases from your physical body and you move away and you can forget it. What's really important to note is the truth is energized and strengthened by feelings. Because the truth is just a statement that evokes a feeling of love, compassion, I got ahead of myself there. Feelings of love, compassion, kindness, etc. Or you can have a truth that's created with fear, anger, hate, etc. along that low vibrational spectrum. Now, let me just talk about a positive affirmation. I think it's really important to note that positive affirmations are actually conscious thoughts, and they became really popular by Louise Hay. Now, she went through an awful lot of contrasts in her early life that resulted in cancer, and she's another one that, now Brandon Bayes healed herself through her emotional releasing that she was doing, her journey work that she cobbled together and no doubt was guided on. So Louise Hay awakened through a New Thought church. I can't remember the exact name of it. And they taught positivity and positive affirmations. But what is really important to note is that she also, when she found out she had cervical cancer, was she went through therapy, she went through, she did forgiveness, because that's old thinking, but it still worked for her because she didn't die till she was 90. And actually, this was all happening in her 40s. So, and she was creating new positive affirmations as well. So the positive affirmation actually works on the conscious mind and the perspective, but it doesn't influence subconscious thought. And many people out there try and use positive affirmations to influence the subconscious thought, but actually it's counterintuitive and it doesn't really work in some cases and in most cases, unless you're actually doing the experience-led releasing as well as or first, because a positive affirmation can actually, and it's usually the complete opposite of what you hold as a truth within you that's stored in your subconscious, and it actually generates low vibration when you're the transitional vibration that you generate every day, and that becomes and adds to your stored low vibration that then goes on to trigger more low vibration that you generate on a transitional basis. So unless you're actually doing it with a huge amount of experience-led releasing where you're keeping your mind positive, then it's really, really tough to keep yourself balanced, because you're going to be triggering low vibration all the time. So I'm not saying that positive affirmations aren't great, because they are, and they're certainly great when you're wanting to shift perspective and it doesn't generate low vibration, and it's certainly what Abraham teaches at the basis of levels in terms of pivoting. But this isn't about pivoting. That's the pivoting actually happens at the end of the releasing. It's really, but of course you can keep, and the mindset work and positive affirmation type of thing can keep you balanced during the day, and it keep you actually on track, but it won't be the solution. It can't be the solution for most people that truly transform by just doing it. You have to do other things, and you have to create new truths that go into your law of truth duplicate that are stored within your subconscious mind. Otherwise, you'll continue to be constantly trying to keep yourself holding the line with those positive affirmations, and sometimes getting somewhere, and other times generating lots of low vibration that just, it's kind of like a step forward, one step and go back two. It keeps you kind of stuck, or at least it stops you from moving forward very quickly. So let's talk about experience-led releasing. I've just explained, given you a scenario about it. It has to be done in conjunction with your higher self, absolutely, without a doubt. And it has to be used when you can't create those love-labeled truths by just shifting your perception about a situation. Because your higher self will show you the pertinent events that need relabeling, that have been triggering a huge amount of low vibration. And they will show you all different perspectives. Once you've been able to give yourself self-love and compassion, they will be able to show you so much more about the other perspective of the people that hurt you, and help you understand that they were disconnected. And that comes by that connection, by being in balance and the connection to your higher self. So your higher self connection is so important with this. And now comes the secret sauce. Oh my Lord, this is honestly life-changing. Because once you've reframed enough of your experiences from fear to love, by creating those new love-labeled truths with your higher self, you're able to create this one amazing, all-encompassing love-labeled truth. It wasn't your fault, it wasn't their fault, it wasn't God's fault, but God takes the blame. So that you can literally, because God, the whole point of all of this, God and your higher self created you. And if that is irking and making you feel just try feel into the truth of you. I'm going to let you have some knowing. Just going to send some energy, see if and balance, see if we can help you. Just feel into that truth of you. Because I can tell you I struggled with that to start with. I really did. So I get where you're coming from if you're struggling with the word God. Because there's so many connotations around that have been attached to it that, to be honest, are mistranslated and mistruths. Anyway, so if you can create that truth, then for a start, your emotion experience of releasing changes so much. I mean, you can just go through your emotion experience of releasing like a bish bash bomb. Whatever happened to you, you can just go, whatever, wasn't my fault. God takes the blame, wasn't their fault. Honestly, it changes everything on that in that respect. But what you can now start to do, because there's a number, when your truth buckets in the law of truth are strong enough with a load of high vibrational feelings attached to them, you can start asking your higher self to apply the truths within your truth buckets to you, your energetic system. And they will literally blast through thousands of fear-labelled memories that are stored within your physical body and enable you to completely release from them and become 100% love-labelled. Honestly, when I heard this, I was like, oh my Lord. Because some people could literally do experience-led releasing to the day they transition into non-physical and still not get released to everything, because we are triggering low vibration constantly when we have experiences, and it's almost impossible to do it. This is where you get the upper limiting. So you'll get that, there's always a new issue, you're constantly working on yourself because you're constantly having to do experience of releasing, or constantly having to do positive mindset stuff or positive affirmations. And there's a whole industry out there doing that. But if you want to be truly free and to be truly awakened and never have to think about that, and truly be able to step 5 through your life without really doing much other than going, yeah, whatever, choose love, then this is the way forward. This is to true freedom. This is freedom. And my Lord, it's mind-blowing. Honestly, it's amazing. And there's more to it than what I've explained, so much more to it, but I can't explain all of that in this short video, even though it's not that short, or podcast. But there's so much amazingness there. And this is what I actually guide people through in my Awaken to the Power of You mastermind. I take people through the process of tuning to their higher self and connecting to the experiences that they need to release, helping them doing that with different my own experience, but also all my amazing capabilities that I've got that have been enabled since all of this has happened. So, but this is an overview of what is possible, quite frankly. So if you want to know more information, just let me know about that. So if you want, go ahead and like my Facebook page as well, because I do quite a lot of lives and Instagram as well, if Instagram is your thing, about all sorts of chisel racing, really. But I also share a lot of my energy, colour healing energy, which literally it fast tracks and speeds up this whole of this emotional releasing and experience-led releasing. So I just want to recap for you so you can understand this. And those on the podcast, go to my YouTube channel and have a look for this video, because I have a really good slide that you are not going to be able to see on your podcast. Anyway, right, okay, so here we are. The law of truth. So basically, you are created in physical. So that's what that yellow circle is. And there's 3 aspects to it. There's God's energy, there's your energy, and your higher self's energy, and that is you. So you're conceived by your parents, and you become physical, and you're 100% love labelled. Law of truth. In the law of truth, a duplicate of you is created. It's all an energetic duplicate. And of course, it's 100% love labelled. And remember, we talked about hitting the ground running by picking the right family for you, the right disconnected family, if you're living a life of fear to start with. And quite frankly, if you were living a life of wonder, the likelihood of you listening to this is really slim. So I'm 100% certain that you started your life with quite a lot of fear involved. So the broadest truth is then created to enable the enactment of your soul contracted obstacles through the behaviour of your family. And actually, do you know what? So many experiences can create that broadest truth. There were things going on in my family, without a doubt, that enforced my broadest truth, but my broadest truth came from my teen trying to soothe me at night. I thought it was the devil trying to invade me, because I'd seen Alice in Wonderland and the witches. I think it was about 3, and I created this truth that I was evil. And there was so much more going on as a consequence, that actually enforced that. But that is as basic as it can be, because I'd actually wanted to disconnect from my family and my non-physical team. So that was a perfect broadest truth for me to enact and enable all the soul contracted obstacles that I wanted to experience. And you will have had exactly the right experience for you to enable and enact that broadest truth. And so through the law of attraction, you're radiating out. For me, I was radiating out, I'm evil, therefore I'm not worthy. So of course I was going to bring in all sorts of fear-based experiences, just as I had wanted to. And the obstacle and fear-based experience are the same thing. So those obstacles are created, and it's like a big brick wall. You're fighting, you're experiencing them. And what happens is, as you're going through that process, through your life, through your journey, you start creating more and more fear-labelled truths, and they're all added to your duplicate within the law of truth. And that's when you get this balance. So you either have a persistent energy emitting from you that's either positive or negative. And if you have mostly love labelled truths, then it's positive. If you have mostly fear labelled truths, then it's negative. And of course, this interferes with your ability to manifest and to create and attract. So as you have experienced the expansion through the contrast, the beginnings of it, you then have your awakening moment that triggers an awakening. And now is the time for you to really expand. Through the awakening, you start to understand who you really are, and you begin to overcome those obstacles as per your contract, and resulting in you aligning to your soul contract, to the wondrous parts for you to be able to expand, and the shift in balance of the fear labelled to love labelled truths, and your duplicate of the truth of you begins. And it basically means that eventually, as you become more and more love labelled, your persistent energy out into the universe becomes more and more positive, and your ability to manifest desires becomes easier and easier and easier, with less resistance to release, because the fear labelled truths are basically they're what the resistance is. And this is all about manifesting and co-creating, but it's about keep making you feel happy and feeling free and never being dragged back and truly aligning to your soul contract. And that is the reason for being here. For that is going to set you free when you understand that.